All right. So, kia ora tātou. Welcome back to Hell Pizza's Great New Zealand Book Trip. For those of you that are new to us today, the Great New Zealand Book Trip is a special addition to the Hell Pizza Reading Challenge. When you tune into one of our live author series, you'll get to hear the stories and inspirations of some of the most talented storytellers we have in Aotearoa. We really hope that the illustrators and the authors that you meet a lot on this trip this year will help inspire you to tell your own stories through writing or illustrations or even both. I'm Siang, the marketing manager at Hell Pizza, and I'm really glad to have you back for a third year of the book trip. This year is also pretty special for us. It marks 10 years since the Hell Reading Challenge began. Now, since 2014, millions and millions of books have been read by tamariki just like you. And that's a pretty amazing achievement. So ka pai to you guys, and let's keep on reading, eh? Last year, we had 651 schools and 196 libraries across Aotearoa taking part in the reading challenge. We also had 429 classrooms. That's 14,000 young readers tune into these live readings. So thank you for coming along on this wonderful journey with us. Now today, we're super excited to kick off 2024 live author series with Susan Wardell and Rose Northey, who wrote and illustrated today's book, The Lighthouse Princess, which actually won the New Zealand Society of Authors Best First Book Award at last year's New Zealand Book Awards for Children and Young Adults. Yes. Now, this book is an epic adventure that takes us to a hideaway tucked within a rocky coastline, which is also home to a princess in a tower who doesn't need rescuing. And just like the boy in the story, you might not want to leave too. So, today it's going to be a little bit different. So today is going to be get a little bit interactive. So I want you to go get some paper and a pen, because today we're going to make a special story soup. And don't ask questions yet. It's all going to make sense soon. So just make sure you've got paper and a pen handy. Now, I can't wait to see what you guys come up with this morning. So make sure you get your teachers to share your wonderful creations with us. So now it's time to pass over to Susan and Rose, and I'll come back a little bit later to host some Q&As and of course announce the two winners of today's book, The Lighthouse Princess. So sit back, enjoy, and over to you, Susan and Rose.
Kia ora koutou katoa. My name is Susan. It's so delightful to be with all of you this morning. Thank you for joining us. And I'm really looking forward to sharing with you about the book that Rose and I put together, The Lighthouse Princess. So hopefully you've all got your paper ready to do some drawing in a little bit. But the first thing we're actually going to do is read the book together. And then I'm going to tell you about this mysterious idea of story soup. Rose, did you want to say hi to everyone too?
I do. Kia ora, everyone. I'm Rose. I'm going to be holding up the book for you today and also doing some drawings with you in a little bit. So I hope you have your pieces of paper ready and a pen, because we are going to do some drawing together while Susan speaks. So get ready for that.
Okay, so let's get going and read the story of The Lighthouse Princess. And Rose will be showing you the pages of the book while I read. The Lighthouse Princess. The princess lived in a tower by the sea. She wasn't sad and she wasn't stuck. She looked after the light that shone at night to keep the ships safe. She went fishing off the balcony. She made art out of shells. She swam with seals in the rock pools. She flew paper planes from the highest window. She counted the boats she could see in the distance. She wasn't even lonely. Well, maybe a little bit. One day, a storm came. The birds tucked themselves away among the rocks. Safe inside her lighthouse, the princess could see a little fishing boat with green sails. It was coming closer and closer. And as the wind whipped the waves up high, the little boat tipped over. The princess ran fast. She ran down the winding stairs and slid through her secret tunnel. She ran over the slippery rocks and down to the beach. She dived into the ocean and pulled the boy from the boat up onto the shore. He coughed up water, some seaweed, and a starfish. Then he looked up at the princess and at the high walls beyond. "Do you need rescuing from this tower?" he asked her. "No," she said, "I like it here." Inside, the princess made a fire. They both sat close to dry themselves off. "It was sunny when I started out," the boy explained. The princess nodded. "The storm came up very quickly," she said. "I came to see who lived here all alone," he continued. "I live here," she told him. When they were warm again, she showed him around the lighthouse. The curly stairs, the cozy nooks, the big, big light. The boy looked out at the ocean, which was calm again now. Then he turned to the princess. "Do you like fishing?" he asked. She smiled. So they went fishing off the balcony. They made art out of shells. They swam with seals in the rock pools. They flew paper planes from the highest window. They looked after the light that shone at night to keep the ships safe. They even fixed up the little boat with the green sails and went sailing together. Then they came back to the lighthouse and sat on the rocks, watching the busy sideways crabs and the restless shine of the sea beyond. "Thank you for saving me," said the fisher boy. "I see why you like it here." "Would you like to stay?" asked the princess. He smiled. So they lived together in the tower by the sea. And they weren't sad, and they weren't stuck, and they weren't lonely either. The end. So I had so much fun writing this book. And I think a really good book is a bit like a soup. And the reason it's a bit like a soup is it has all sorts of good ingredients all mixed in together. Interesting things, characters, places, things that happen. And being a writer is about gathering the ingredients to put together into your soup, your story soup. And so I'm going to share with you a little rhyme about that, and then I'm going to explain a bit more about some of the ingredients that I put into this book, The Lighthouse Princess. So the rhyme starts with the idea that a writer is a forager. So does anyone know what a forager is? What is a forager? A forager is someone who goes out and looks for food in the wild, in nature, maybe picking berries or looking for things on the ground to eat, looking for fruit, and gathers it up in a big basket so they can take it home and make delicious food with it. So a writer is like a forager, and that what we do is not just sitting down and writing, but we go out into the world and we notice things and we experience things. We use all of our senses and we store those memories and experiences up in our body, in our mind, in our heart, and then we put them all together into our stories. So a writer is like a forager, and your body is the kete, the basket. So you gather up your taonga, your treasure, all of those things you find, and you make a story soup. So if you want to practice with me now, I have some actions for that rhyme. So it goes like this. A writer is a forager. Your body is the kete. Gather up your taonga and make a story soup. So we're going to do that rhyme once more a little later. But first, I wanted to share with you about the ingredients that went into the Lighthouse Princess. But first, I'm going to let Rose share with you about the drawing you're going to do while I talk about the next bit.
So I hope you have your piece of paper ready and your pen, because we are going to do some little drawings as Susan speaks. So is everyone ready? I am going to draw on these little bits of cardboard, but you can do the same on your piece of paper. And then later on, you can make your very own soup and add your own ingredients to it. Take it away, Susan.
Awesome. So where I am now in Otepoti, Dunedin, outside my window is the harbour, and beyond that is the peninsula. And on the far other side of the peninsula is a wild beach called Allen's Beach. And the first idea I ever had for this story of the Lighthouse Princess, I was walking along the beach, and it was quite a windy kind of day, and it was whipping the sand up all around me, and it was whipping the waves up into white crashing horses coming towards the beach. And I was walking along in the wild weather, looking towards the cliffs at the end, and I started to feel a feeling in my chest, a kind of wild feeling, and to imagine what it would be like to live there, maybe in a castle on the end of the cliff, and live a whole life by myself in this cool beachside world. And that was that feeling I felt that day. That wild feeling was the very first ingredient that went into the story soup of the Lighthouse Princess. The next ingredient that went in was something that actually happened further back in time than that. And I was about 6 years old. Is anyone here? Put your hand up if you're 6 years old at the moment. So you might already be gathering some ingredients that could go into a story, just like I was when I was 6 years old. And I went to a holiday to a little seaside town with my family. And one of my family members gave me a gift. And it was this little yellow fishing reel. So I went down to the dock and I put my fishing reel in, and I sat very patiently for a long time, and nothing happened, and nothing happened. And then suddenly something happened, and there was a tug on my fishing reel. And when I reeled it up, I found that I had caught a little fish. And that was such an exciting moment for me. And I remembered the excitement, and I remembered what fishing felt like and looked like. And I stored that memory up. And it took quite a long time later till I was able to use that ingredient in my story. But actually, when I was about 14 years old, I wrote a little story about that day when I went fishing. And that was the first thing I ever had published in a book, which was in this book called Down to the Sea Again, which is an anthology of stories curated by Tessa Duda. So it took a few years, but that ingredient went into my story soup. And then later, the idea about fishing also went into the story of the Lighthouse Princess. Now, the interesting thing was when I first imagined it walking on the beach that day, I was imagining a princess living in a castle, like most princesses do. But we have another cool place a bit south of where I live called the Catlins, and there's a place there called Nugget Point. And I went for a walk to a lighthouse there one day, and I thought the lighthouse was so cool and interesting, and what would it be like if the princess lived in the lighthouse instead. So I mixed that into my story. And the other cool thing about this lighthouse is that you have to go on a very narrow track to get there, like across the cliffs. And when I was walking along that narrow track, I looked down and there was some shallow pools of water and the sun was shining, so they were all warmed up. And I saw some seals who were swimming in that lovely warm shallow water, and they were turning round and around. They looked like they were having the absolutely best time and enjoying themselves and living their best life. So I noticed that, and I thought about what it would feel like to be a seal or to swim with a seal, and I made that another ingredient in my story when I was imagining the world of the Lighthouse Princess and what she might do living in a place like that, in a lighthouse on the coast. So there were lots of other little bits and pieces of ingredients that I put in as well. So for example, when I'm at the beach, I like to collect up shells and find lots of really beautiful, interesting looking shells. And sometimes I can bring them home and do art with them. So I thought I'd put that ingredient into my story soup too. And I have lots of shells around my house that I collect as well. And I also sometimes notice when I'm looking for shells that there are some other things that are moving around the beach that look like a shell, but they have little legs on the side, which is the crabs. And I noticed in particular the way that they move sideways. I'm not sure if you heard that bit in the story where the crabs go sideways. And they look quite funny doing that, don't they? So being a person who notices things in the world is the best thing possible for a writer or an artist. And that's something that you can do now any day that you like, is just notice things in the world, have cool experiences. And one other ingredient that I added in is my daughter likes doing origami, and she makes paper planes sometimes to fly around. So I added that as one more of my ingredients that went in to the story soup of the Lighthouse Princess. And so the other things that go in sometimes are things we see in the world, but also might be other books we read. And when I was thinking about it, I remembered that two of my favorite books when I was growing up were these ones. So this one's called The Island of Blue Dolphins by Scott Odell. And in this story, a young Indigenous girl in California lives by herself for 18 years, and she finds a way to survive on an island. And it's actually based on a true story. And I think that reading that book gave me more ideas and ingredients as well. And then this book, which was my top favorite book and still is Winter of Fire by Cheryl Jordan, who's a New Zealand author. And this has a great main character called Elsha, who's a very strong, brave character who saves the day. And I think that was one of my other ingredients, to have a strong character in my book who could help rescue other people. So the cool thing about doing a picture book is it isn't just the author who adds their own ingredients to the story, but when Rose took the story and started doing the illustrations, she added so many amazing ingredients of her own. So I'll let her tell you a little bit about that.
One of the things that I thought about when I was illustrating the book is I went for a big walk and I looked up and I saw the moon. And I thought, how cool is it that we all look up into the sky and see the same moon? So I thought maybe I could give the princess the moon to take care of, because that's kind of like a big light. And it's something that all of you can look up into the sky and think to yourself, oh, the princess is doing a great job today.
That's so cool. Thank you, Rose. And when I first saw the illustrations, it was just so beyond exciting, because Rose had put in so many different ingredients, some real things, some imagined things. And that's really the final step that we do when we create a book together, is we can mix it all up. So we put everything together that we want to, and we mix it together, and it creates something totally new and unexpected and that's never existed before. So that's what I want to encourage you with today, is to do reading and read all the delicious story soups that other people have put together for you, and also do some writing of your own with any ingredients that you feel like. Do some drawing where you can notice and draw things and create your own designs that way too. And even if you're not doing that, just do some noticing and some foraging to have experiences feelings, memories that can go into creative things later. So just before we get into stories, I thought we might do our rhyme one more time with the actions I taught you at the start. How does that sound? Cool. So if you can all stand up where you are, if that's possible, that would be great. I can't quite do it here, so I'm going to sit, but if everyone wants to stand, we'll do our rhyme again. So remember, we're going to say, a writer is a forager, your body is the kete, gather up your taonga and make a story soup. So that was the practice one. We're going to do one more. Here we go. A writer is a forager, your body is the kete, gather up your taonga and make a story soup. Thank you so much, everyone, for being with us and listening to us this morning. Anything else she wants? And otherwise, we're jumping into to question time.
Is my face again. That was so much fun. I hope you did some drawings, and I hope you can make your own story soups as well. My favorite thing about making books is listening to books while I'm drawing. I just love it. And I'm sure that you have some favorite books too. And maybe you can find some more, because the more we read, the more beautiful ideas that we have in our brains. I'm excited for you.
Amazing. Hey, thank you so much, Rose and Susan. And thanks so much for sharing your story and showing us a little bit about the how you've put it together through the story soup. It's such a cool way to I guess understand the process that you go through a little bit. I can't wait to try it with my own kids, because it's just a really cool way. So thank you very much. So we've got some really awesome questions, and we'll try to get through all of them. But if we miss one or two, I'm really sorry, guys. But we'll do our best. So let's jump into a question that about the Lighthouse Princess. So Sawyer's Bay School asked, how did you come up with the concept of the main character?
I think for me, some of what I already shared about the different ingredients all went into that. But in some ways, a main character can be just a bit like yourself, really, imagining yourself into a different world. And they might be a bit different to you. They might be a bit braver or a bit stronger, but it can start with imagining yourself in a different place. But I would love to hear Rose also talking about how she came up with how to draw the main character.
I mean, for me, I thought about what type of person does it take to live on an island by themselves? And I thought, well, you have to be able to do everything by yourself. You have to do the plumbing, you have to do wastewater management, you have to fix everything up and make it nice and comfortable for yourself. So I wanted to make a character who looked like they were ready to get work done. They were wearing overalls, they had tools in their pockets, and that was really important to me.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I like the idea of picturing yourself a little bit sometimes as the main character, because you feel all the feelings, all the sensations, everything you can describe, and being able to create that character as well visually is super important. So yeah, cool. Thank you. Now, Kina School, they wanted to find out a little bit more about how you work together to make the illustrations reflect the writing.
Rose, do you want to grab that one?
Okay, sure. So the really funny and magical thing about this book is that Susan and I didn't actually work together at the same time. Susan wrote the story first, and then later on, I looked at her words and I imagined all the ways that it could be done as a picture. And then I made that. And so what happened was it resulted in two very different brains creating a story that neither of us could have made by ourselves. And then it was a surprise to us. It was a surprise to me when I saw Susan's words, because she'd already made the most beautiful story. And it was a surprise to Susan when she saw that I'd done something different with the the pictures.
Yeah, it was totally different, new ingredients. It's so beautifully put, Rose. It's more than either of us could have done separately or by ourselves. And really, the illustrator is a type of storyteller as well, and manages. Rose has stories going on in the pictures that aren't in the words at all. It's like extra bonus stories and little hidden details, and so it's telling that story and then adding on other layers of story. So it's really special.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, that's amazing that it comes together to form this beautiful book and this tell this beautiful story. It's amazing. Awesome. Thank you. Ohaka School. I guess you've kind of answered the question a little bit, but they asked, where do you get your ideas for story writing?
Yeah, I think, like I was sharing before, they can come from lots of different places. And sometimes the ideas sit in our head for a long time, and it's like a little tiny seed of something, and it just takes them time, sometimes years, to grow in, or you might try them in different things. But I think it's good if the ideas are something that matters to you. There's something that is real that it doesn't have to be real, because of course we put imagination and magic and fantasy into our books as well. But it's good if there's some things in there that maybe you've seen or experienced or lived that feel real. And that's when in my rhyme I talk about you gather up your taonga, your treasure, is those things, those ideas are treasure to you. Only you and the whole world would have seen that exact thing at that exact time, or that feeling or experience in that exact way. And so they really are your treasures. And I think for anyone else who would love to do some more writing, use the things that are your special things, even hard things as well as good things in your life. Like, those are treasures too, to choose to share if and when you want to, and put into your story writing.
Oh, cool. Now, do you, like you mentioned that you some you don't use straight away. Now, do you keep them, write them down, or like little ideas or anything like that?
Yeah, sometimes I write stories or little just bits of a story or one line or
Yeah,
something on a bit of paper or a little note on my laptop, and they just
yeah,
might flutter around for ages, and then I pick them up again later. But other things are just more like experiences that you store up inside yourself, or
yeah,
little ideas, and you kind of just got to trust that they will stay around and come out when they're ready.
yeah, yeah. And how about for you, Rose?
Well, I always feel the most inspired when I'm looking at other people's drawings or reading other people's stories. I feel like it just makes me want to make things. And that to me is kind of the ignition point for, as Susan was saying, all of those memories and experiences coming out in the form of making some new art or some new stories. I think it's great.
Oh, cool. I like what you were saying, Susan, about letting the ideas and the words sort of come out when they're ready to come out. But I guess the important thing is making sure that it's all written down and it's all there, so when it is ready, you can easily remember it.
Yeah.
Cool. Now we have where are we? Oh, so this one's for so this is from Kaitoa Intermediate, room 6. They wanted to know if you've always been interested in writing.
Definitely, since I was first starting to learn to write, really. So, at age 5 or 6, some of you might be similar age who are listening. I was really interested in that, and it just made me feel so powerful that I could take something that was in my own head and then put it on the paper and like transfer it into someone else's head who was reading it. So I used to sneak out late at night when I couldn't sleep sometimes, and a friend gave me a little pad of paper that was circle shaped, which which I thought was super cool. I hadn't seen that before. So I get a little round piece of paper and like write a little poem or something late at night and then just tuck it away. And so it was really a very exciting dream to get to write books that people read now.
Oh, cool. Now, Taitoka School. This one's for you, Rose. What do you need to become an illustrator?
That's a great question. And really the only thing that you need to do is draw. And it's okay to, however you start drawing, if you don't like your drawings at first, that's okay. You just keep drawing and drawing and drawing. And that really is the secret, because the more you practice something, the more you're going to find things that you love about it. And yeah, just have a good time. Yeah, I think I was drawing all the way through school. I would have little doodles in my notebooks. Maybe some of you do the same thing. And you don't realize it, but that's actually just practice for doing some really cool drawings later on that you absolutely love. I didn't go to university or anything. Oh, well, I did, but for a completely different thing. I did not learn to draw except just by practicing myself.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I really like that. Like, yeah, it takes a lot of, it takes practice. It's no one ever gets everything right the first time, and the more you practice, like riding a bike, right? The more you practice, and the better you'll get at it. Cool. That's awesome. And from the same school, this is the final question. Was it hard to get your book published?
Yeah, I think the short answer, what a good question. The short answer is yes, it's hard, but that doesn't mean it's not worth doing. And I think maybe that's almost the last ingredient of the story soup is like determination, because it was actually about, I told you that story of walking along the beach and I had that first idea for the Lighthouse Princess. Between that and actually having the book published was about 9 years. So I had to try lots of times sending it to a publisher to see, would you like to publish it? And they sent me back a letter to say, no, thank you, which is really hard. And you feel a big feeling. And then you try again later. So I sent another letter. Would you like to publish it? No, thank you. And then I waited a couple of years and I got a letter out of the blue to say, yes, we would like to publish it. So when you are doing writing or probably illustrating too, you have to have some persistence to keep going with what you believe in and keep practicing. And it's okay to feel sad if it's not working out straight away, but you have a cry and then you start again. And it's really, really special. And the other thing about publishing is that's when you're trying to get published from like a big publisher who's going to put it in bookstores. But there are other ways to share your stories, because you can actually make your own books really well with computers now, and you can share stories in lots of different ways. So that isn't so hard at all. So in that sense, you guys can publish your own books whenever you want to in your schools and at home. My kids love to make little books and we share them around too. So yeah, yes and no, I guess.
Awesome. Yeah. So I guess the important thing is to just back yourself, believe in what you're doing, keep trying, and and the rewards will come. Awesome. All right. So that's all the questions that we have. So what's left to do is announce the 2 winners of today's book, The Lighthouse Princess. The first winner is Hellswell School, T23, T24, and T25, and Weymouth Primary School. So congratulations! We'll get those books sent out to you soon. Now, before we leave, thanks to everyone for tuning in on this stop. We hope you really enjoyed Susan and Rose's story. Thank you to the teachers, and of course you, the tamariki. And yes, thanks, and especially thank you to Susan and Rose for joining us and taking us on this little journey into the Lighthouse Princess.
Thank you so much for having us and for coming, everyone. Have an amazing time reading some awesome books for the Hell Pizza Reading Challenge.
Cool.
Thank you so much. I hope you're feeling inspired. I really appreciated drawing with all of you today. What a great way to start my day.
Awesome. Okay. So thank you very much. And ka kite. See you next time.